Hello everyone. In this session, we will try to understand and explore what is box and what is a whisker plot and how this can be used in the exploratory data analysis and how is this related to statistics and how this process can be used for creating or how to prepare a data for a machine learning problem. So to begin with, we have two topics here. One is box and whisker plot. First, we will look into what a box plot is, and then we will move to why this is merged and called as box and whisker plot. Later part in the session, we will also try to understand what is a 5-number summary and how this 5-number summary is related with box and whisker plot. So to begin with, we might have already seen this somewhere in our schooling days, right? So this part here, this thing is called as a box and a whisker plot. Here you can see that any box or whisker plot is constructed for data analysis should always be constructed with the scale. If we don't have the scale in a box or whisker plot, we will not get the sense of what this box or whisker plot says about the data. So for the next part here, we have the segments of this plot. So we can see here the left bar here in the side of the box, we call this as a minimum value of the data, and the rightmost side where we have the maximum value of the data. So these two lines here in the left and right of the box represents the minimum and maximum value of the data, and the next line here is called as the first quartile, or this can be represented as a lower quartile or 25% of the data. And the next plot here, or the next line here, represents the median value of what the data is representing. And the third line here, or the fourth line on the overall structure here, represents the third quartile, or which can also be said as an upper quartile or 75% of the data. So this is how box plot is formed. And why do we call this as a whisker plot? Because we can see that this box has two whiskers over the sides of left and right. So this is why we call this plot as a box and a whisker plot, right? And as I said, always remember that box and whisker plot should be constructed with a scale. So any data points that lies outside the minimum value or that lies outside the maximum value can be considered as outliers. We'll see what outliers is in depth or in detail in the upcoming sessions. So for a simple definition, box plot summarizes data using the minimum, lower quartile, median, upper quartile and the maximum values. It allows to see the important data at a glance. Next, moving to the 5-number summary, we have something called as representation of data graphically. Similarly, we have representation of a data numerically. So this is what 5-number summary will deals with. The 5-number summary is a numerical representation of box and whisker plot. The 5-number summary consists of 5 major steps. So the 5-number summary is a numerical representation, and this is what it contains. The first part of a 5-number summary is a minimum value in a data set. As we seen in our box and whisker plot, the minimum value is called as the minimum value in the data set, and the minimum value of a box plot can be considered as the first part of a 5-number summary. The second part of a 5-number summary is the first quartile or the lower quartile or the 25th percentage of data, which comes from the box or whisker plot again, which is the second representation or the second line of the plot. The third part is the median or the second quartile or the 50th percentage of the data that is coming from box and whisker plot. The third line can be represented as the third part of the 5-number summary, which represents the median of the entire data. The next part is the third or upper quartile or 75% of the data that comes from the fourth line of our box or whisker plot that represents the 75% of data in the 5-number summary. Finally, we have the maximum value in the dataset, and that is the 5-number summary's last part of understanding the dataset. So to understand the 5-number summary and the box and whisker plot in more detailed way, I would like to take you to the theoretical session of how to construct a box or whisker plot manually by calculations.